Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Way Wednesday Virtual Midrash.
Hello.
I am Pastor Israel Cohen, and we have with us today our youth minister, Ali Rozo, and of course, my partner in crime here, Pastor Jeff Warner.
Hello, everybody.
Shalom.
I'm sitting here surrounded by Apple devices everywhere I look, and they're all going off telling me that we're live.
Well, of course, because you're live.
Yeah, just in case I could forget that. So, hey guys, we're in Deuteronomy chapter 1 through chapter 3 tonight, and I'm very happy to have Israel taking point on this tonight, because this is some of his favorite stuff. He's got a lot to say about it, so I'm excited to listen to what he's going to say tonight, and let's have a good time.
Amen and amen. Deuteronomy chapters 1 through 3. We're going to cover quite a bit tonight, but one of my favorite topics, as is our senior pastor, Dr. Douglas Hamp. We love discussing the Nephilim, the giants, the Rephaim, and they are discussed in these 3 chapters.
Okay,
so
I'm not even kidding you right now. Not even kidding. You said the Nephilim, and like the number on the people viewing jumps up.
Yeah. Well, everybody wants to know. This is a topic that, for whatever reason, a lot of seminaries just kind of brush over. So there's a large group of pastors out there that just have never really researched the topic, or it's been kind of taboo, to be quite honest, in mainstream Christianity over the last, I want to say, roughly 300 to 500 years. People have backed off from this topic and focused more on the New Testament, about what Christ did in our life. But there are things that we need to know, because when we read the book of Revelation, we need to understand what happened during these times, what these beings were, what the type of things that they did to corrupt mankind, where they came from. And it's a really interesting topic, and I'm really excited about getting to talk about it tonight. So let's kind of dive into this. And we're going to start, we'll just do the real quick reading, and we'll get up to a point, and then I'm going to start making some comments, because this is where it gets interesting. So we're going to start at Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 1. So these are the words.
My apologies. My laptop is still getting repaired, so I don't have the verses on the screen, but we will read them to you, because that's just the kind of people we are.
Exactly. And if anybody's wondering, if you see this really cool little thing down here at the bottom that's scrolling, where's my camera? Right down here, it says Deuteronomy 1 through 3 chapters. So we're going to start. I'm just going to read from my cool little phone right here. It says, "These are the words that Moses spoke to all Israel across the Jordan in the wilderness, in the Arabah, opposite Suf, between Paran and Tafel, Laban, Hazeroth, and Dizab. It is 11 days' journey from Horeb by way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea. Now Moses spoke to Bnei Yisrael according to all Adonai had commanded him for them in the 40th year, in the 11th month, on the first day of the month, after he had struck down Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon, and Og, king of the Bashan, who lived in Ashtaroth and Edir. here's something that we want to discuss real quick. We're diving in to these giants. Okay, we're talking about King Sihon of the Amorites and King Og of the Bashan. Now, when we discuss these things, when we talk about Amorites were from they are what was referred to in Hebrew as Rephaim. Okay, Rephaim literally translates as the word giant. Now, when I say giant, when I say Rephaim, these aren't the biggest of the big. These are the guys that are Goliath. When we talk about Goliath and his four brothers from Gath, they're discussed also in Tanakh. We have three brothers that are of a much taller stature. These are the mega giants. Okay, and their names were Sheshai, Talmai, and Ahiman. They are called the sons of Anak. So whenever we get to them, they are referenced as the sons of Anak, and their clan was called the Anakim, named after Anak. That's where the name Anakim come from. So you're going to see that referenced all throughout Torah. So these are the really, really big guys. When we discuss Rephaim, again, is the Hebrew word for giant. However, this word applies to a much wider umbrella of class of giants, shall we say. And the Amorites fall within this. And we're going to see, how do we know that these Amorites are big? How do we know that they're giants? How do we know they're Rephaim? Well, when we read in Torah, Torah tells us that the bedstead of King Og was 9 cubits. So we have something that gives us a visual example in Torah. It says 9 cubits long, 4 cubits wide. So it was approximately, using the Egyptian cubit, it was 15.5 feet long and 7 feet wide. So this wasn't no little bitty dude. This was a Rephaim. This was a giant. So here we're talking about Og of Bashan. We also discuss King Sihon, and it makes notice that in verse 4 it says Sihon, king of the Amorites. So we're equating Sihon as also an Amorite.
Can I throw out the first rabbit trail of the evening?
Yes, absolutely.
You're describing the description of this bed, and now in my head I've got that John Denver song, "Grandma's Feather Bed."
Okay,
9 feet high, 6 feet wide. Yeah.
Well, I want to backtrack a little bit here too, because there are pastors that will go into a mindset that when we're discussing the bed of King Og, and it says that it was 9 cubits by 4 cubits, and that this would have been a bed of copulation where they would have held orgies and such, and that is not the case. When it's the word that is used here in the Hebraic is literally meaning it's his actual bed. It is the place that this person sleeps. It's not meaning that it was a bed of pleasure. It wasn't a bed of ritual pagan worship. They had those, and they had other names for those. So what we have is we know that this was his actual bed, and they reference it when they discuss that. They say that it's on display in this town. If you don't believe that this dude was this big, you could still go and see King Og's bed in this particular town and see it for yourself. So let's round back
Yeah, let's put that to bed.
Yeah.
We know, so we established that the Amorites, and I'm going to expand on this because I'll have people ask, well, how do we know that the Amorites, that this title of Rephaim, this title of giants, applies to the Amorites? Well, when we get down here a little further, it discusses this very thing. So we're going to keep reading. So we stop there at the end of verse 4. So verse 5, across the Jordan in the land of Moab, Moses began to expand his Torah, saying, Adonai our God spoke to us at Horeb, saying, you have stayed long enough at this mountain. Okay, I'm going to stop there for just a split second. Folks, you can still go online, type in the rock of Horeb, and see this rock, this giant 3-story tall rock that Moshe smacked with his rod and that burst forth with water. Okay. It's called the rock of Horeb. So this is the place where they were staying, where Israel had been complaining that they were thirsty. They didn't have water for their animals. So Moses smacked the rock. Instead of speaking to the rock, he smacked the rock, and thus was the reason that he wasn't allowed to enter the promised land. But that's what we're talking about here. It says, verse 6, Adonai our God spoke to us at Horeb, being the rock of Horeb. You have stayed long enough at this mountain, and I encourage you to go online and type in rock of Horeb and look at this thing, because you can still see the way the rock has been formed all the way down into the valley. It shows where the water burst forth and all of the water damage that was done to the rock there. But anyway, so back on point. Verse 7, turn, journey on, and enter the hill country of the Amorites and all their neighbors. Now here we are. Here's this name that is going to be synonymous with either Canaanite and meaning giant. So you're going to either read Canaanite or Amorite, and those two names are synonymous with each other because they were Rephaim. They were giants. It says in the Araba, the hill country, the lowland, the Negev, meaning the south, and by the seashore, the land of the Canaanites. Again, remember what I told you about that. And the Lebanon, as far as the great river, the Euphrates. See, I have set the land before you. Enter and possess the land that Adonai swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them and to their descendants after them. So this is prior to them crossing over the Jordan. This is prior to Israel coming into the Jordan. Now, also, if you have any questions, we do have a comment section over here. If you got questions on this topic, we love discussing this topic. It's really cool because this will give you a totally new view when you understand what it is you're reading, of what Torah is telling you. And we know that if God tells us something one time or two times in Torah, that he really wants us to know about it. But what about if he says it to us over and over and over in almost every single book, all the way to Revelation, all the way through the New Testament? These guys are discussed, and people don't realize it. So I'm going to take you down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, I have a question, actually.
Yes.
Okay. So according to verse 7, they're supposed to have land even to the Euphrates River. They don't have that. Israel has never had that far of land. Why do they not have that to the Euphrates?
Well, that's a good question. And I don't have the answer on that one. I don't know why they don't have it all the way. This was what the Father had laid out, and maybe that come in times, maybe that region will be reclaimed. What we do know is that what we're discussing here is prior to them crossing over the Jordan. And we know when they do cross over into the Jordan, the very first city that they come to that is fortified excuse me, is Jericho. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's pick back up at verse 9. And sorry, Allie, I don't have an answer for you, but I'm pretty sure that eventually Israel will claim all of the land that is actually talked about here in Torah. I mean, and that's going to include that's Syria, that's Jordan, that's Saudi Arabia. So we've still got a ways to go when we think about the land that God said we're supposed to possess versus the land that we actually do possess right now. And that's a hotbed over in Israel right now. I'm sorry. Okay. So back to verse 9. It says, I spoke to you at that time, saying, I am not able to bear the burden of you by myself. Adonai, your God, has multiplied you, and here you are today, like the stars of the heavens in number. So we had 3 million plus people that Moses is leading right now in the Sinai desert. It says, may Adonai, God of your fathers, increase you 1,000 times as many as you are, and may he bless you just as he has promised you. Think about that. They started off as 3 million people coming out of Egypt, and now God is saying, may the Father increase you 1,000 times as many as you are from now. That's a whole lot of Jews, brother. That's a lot of Israelites. Okay, I'm going to keep going. He says, how can I bear your load and burden and bickering by myself? Choose for yourselves wise and discerning men, well known to your tribes, and I will appoint them as your heads. So he's telling Israel to pick people who are going to be judges, who are going to be wise men that are going to give good advice, because right now he's answering for 3 million people. Can you imagine sitting on the seat of Moses? That's why it's called the Moses seat, and passing judgment all day long, over and over and over, of all of these different arguments that people may have between each other, all the bickering and backbiting that they were doing back then. And they were doing a lot of it, pretty much like we do today. It says, you answered me and said, the things you have said to do is good. So I took the heads of your tribes, men who were wise and well known, and appointed them as heads over you, leaders of thousands, leaders of hundreds, leaders of 50, leaders of 10, and officials for your tribes. I commanded your judges at that time, saying, Hear ceases between your brothers, and judge fairly between a man and his brother, or outsider with him. You must not show partiality in judgment. Must not. So Israel was forbidden. There was no, well, you're Jewish. Okay, I'm going to treat you different than someone who has sojourned themselves to the house of Israel. That didn't happen. This is where the law was laid down. It was equal straight across the board. It didn't matter who you were. You didn't get preferential treatment when you came before one of the judges of Israel, unlike our court system today. I'm just going to throw that out there. Yeah. Okay, verse 18. I commanded you at that time everything you should do. Then we journeyed from Horeb and went through all that great and terrible wilderness that you saw on the way to the hill country of the Amorites. Okay, now they're equating the hill country to the Amorites. And that's very important as we get later on down in our teachings regarding these Rephaim, regarding these giants, these Nephilim, because they are hill country people. As Adonai, our God, commanded us, when we came to Kadesh Barnea, I said to you, you have come to the hill country of the Amorites, which Adonai, our God, is giving to us. See, Adonai, your God, has set up the land before you. Go up, take possession, as Adonai, God of your fathers, has promised you. He says, do not be afraid or discouraged. Now that phrase right there, do not be afraid or discouraged, is carried over multiple times in the book of in the book of Joshua. Mm-hmm. where Israel is coming up against these Israelites. What you have to realize, folks, is that the entire book of Joshua, when Israel enters into the promised land, that entire book from cover to cover is Israel fighting giants, people that are much larger, much stronger. Their cities are fortified, and they're just not regular people. These are beings that have occupied this land and have desecrated the land. And the Father is saying that he tells Israel, back in the book of Numbers, he told Israel, he says, I'm not giving you this land because of your righteousness. Because Israel, he says, you're a stubborn-necked, stiff-necked people. He says, I'm giving you this land because those that occupy that land currently, the Amorites, the giants, it's because of the desecration that they have done. It says the abominations. He says, so don't think that I'm giving this to you because you're righteous. I'm not. I'm giving you this land because these people, these creatures, have done absolute abominations in the land. They've defied the land. They've defied themselves. That's the sexual immorality that we have. It's why the Father ended up destroying Sodom and Gomorrah. It's all of the things that we are currently seeing, folks, on TV today. All of this, I'm going to go out there, all of this LGBTQ movement that is attacking our children. These are things that the Father does not approve of these. If we believe that God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, that his mind never changes, when he said, this is an abomination, he said, I didn't create you for this. When he says it's an abomination, then he means exactly that. He did not change his mind. He does not change his mind. So if there are pastors out there, and yes, I'm going out there again, buddy, if there's pastors out there that are telling you that these things are acceptable, I would say that they need to go back and read the Torah. They need to go back and see what Torah says in regards to these matters that they are putting out there and promoting because they are not godly. And they need prayer. If you know someone, and I'm going down a rabbit hole here, if you know someone that is involved in that type of lifestyle, folks, I'm going to tell you as a father of a son who is gay, it is not something that is easy to deal with. And I'm speaking from the heart as a dad, that when we deal with these type of issues, this very particular type of sexual immorality, we have to do it with love in our heart, but we have to also let them know that life is not acceptable. That life is not what God created you for. And we have to do it in a positive way. I'm not saying go out, take a Bible and beat somebody over the head and tell them that you're gay and you're wrong and you're going to hell. They already know that. They've already been told that, probably by 15,000 other pastors. So let's be different. Let's approach this in a different way.
Please don't try to pray the gay away.
Yeah, we
please don't do that.
That's not possible to until they're willing to make a change in their life. I can't change my son. As much as I love him, as much as I would love for him to be a heterosexual male, he has chosen a lifestyle, and he was not born that way. There's this big saying, I was born this way, so you have to accept me because I'm gay. I'm sorry, no, you were not. You were not born that way. That was a learned instinct, and it came from these people. That's all of this practice, all of this immorality, all of this degradation came from these fallen, came from these giants came from this lifestyle that they were promoting all the way back then in Deuteronomy that we're about to read about. So,
and it also has to do with, and you've touched on it before. We've hit this one. We hit this one just about every single week. The reason that the scripture is so strong about these things is because they are behaviors or practices that go along with the worship of other gods.
yes.
Period.
I'm sorry. I'm reading the comments.
No. That was somebody was saying, "Hey, you're talking about the Giants. Where's Dr. Doug?" And I said, "You'd think he'd be here for this one, but but no. This is our show."
I'm happy to I stand in his shadow, and I'm happy to, because he is my mentor on this topic. I've read every one of his books, and I think the man is dead on. He is truly blessed when it comes to teaching on this subject. So I'm just trying to fill in his shoes. It'll be God's personal opinion. So
what I was saying,
we're going to continue. So let me. Yeah. I kind of got off topic there with the.
No, I was just going to say that
back to scripture. So
yeah.
Okay, where we finished off, verse 21, he says, "Do not be afraid or discouraged." The reason that this is stated here is because that exact phrase, "Do not be afraid or dismayed or discouraged," is repeated over and over and over in Joshua when they're coming up to fight against these giants. And again, we're about to get to the really good meat stuff here in a few minutes. And I'm going to tell you how you know they're giants. It says, "Then all of you came near to me," verse 22, "then all of you came near to me and said, 'Let's send men ahead of us to explore the land for us and bring us back word about the way we should go up and the cities we will enter.' The idea seemed good to me, so I took 12 men from among you, one man from each tribe. They turned and went up into the hill country, and they came to the Wadi, which is the river, the Wadi Eshcol, and spied it out. They took in their hands some of the fruit of the land and brought it down to us. They also brought back words to us and said, 'Good is the land that Adonai, our God, is giving us.'" They were excited about this. "However, yet you would not go up, but rebelled against the command of Adonai, your God. In your tents you grumbled and said, 'Because Adonai hates us, he has brought us out from the land of Egypt,' this is interesting, 'to hand us over to the Amorites to destroy us.'" Now, why would they think that these Amorites would destroy them? Hold that in your thoughts. It says, "Where are we going? Our brothers have discouraged our hearts, saying, 'The people are greater and taller,'" they're giants, "'than we are. The cities are great and fortified up to the heavens.'" It says that the sons of Anak lived in some of these cities. Now, remember, these are the guys where in Proverbs it says that the giants, it says that they were taller than the cedars of Lebanon. This is Sheshai, Talmai, and Ahiman, the sons of Anak, the Anakim. We're about to get to them. It says the cities are great and fortified up to the heavens. It says besides, it says not only are these people greater and taller than we are, they say besides, we have even seen the children of Anakim there. So this is how we know that there are two different classes. You have the Amorite class, which they're saying they're already taller and greater than the Israelites. But now they're saying, moreover, besides this fact, besides these Amorites that are already really scary, it says, we've seen the sons of the Anakim, these mega giants. So this is where it gets cool. All right. And I lost my place. My phone.
29.
29.
I do
29.
this
Here we go.
literally all the time.
Then I said to you, don't be terrified or afraid of them.
Yes.
Lord your God, who goes before you, he will fight for you, according to all he did for you in Egypt before your eyes. And in the wilderness, where you saw how the Lord your God carried you as a man carries his son, and all the way that you went until you came to this place. Yet, for all of that, you didn't believe the Lord your God, who went in the way before you to search out a place for you to pitch your tents, to show you the way that you should go, in the fire by night and a cloud by day.
Amen. Verse 34. When Adonai heard the tone of your words, he was angry and swore an oath, saying, no one, not one of these men of this evil generation will see the good land that I swore to give to your fathers, except Caleb, the son of Jephunneh. He will see it, yet to him and his children I will give the land that he has walked on, because he has followed Adonai wholeheartedly. Caleb. Now that's an interesting person to discuss here. What do we know about Caleb?
That he was one of the
Pastor
12
Jeff.
spies, and he was like, yeah, we can do it. And the rest of them were like, actually, no, we can't, aside from Joshua.
What's the other thing about Caleb that's very interesting to point out here? And I believe Pastor Jeff knows. Where was Caleb from?
I was about to say he's not an Israelite.
He's not an Israelite. So many pastors skip over this because later on he is attached to the house of Judah. However, he's a Kenizzite, and the Kenizzites occupied the land of Canaan along with all of these other giant tribes, all of these other Amorite and Canaanite families. So these Kenizzites, Caleb had been raised around them. He knew who these giants were. And I truly believe that is one of the reasons that when all of the spies came back and they were given this report saying that these guys that live in this land, they're just as massive as King Og of the Bashan and King Sihon, they're just as massive as these guys, and we're not going to be able to defeat them because there's thousands of them. And here's something that's very interesting. We're about to get to it. I digress. Let me get to it. Just keep in mind that when you're reading Joshua, that Caleb, as a child, grew up in the land of Canaan. He grew up around all of these giant beings, so he knew that they could be killed. I truly believe that the Father put it in his heart to express that these beings are not indestructible, because he lived around them. And so he's coming back and he's giving the report. Don't be afraid of these things. I believe in God. The God of Israel has told me we're able to defeat these things, and I know that they can be defeated. So let's go get them. Let's go, pick up the spear and let's go get them. Right. So that's why I think that makes it creates a greater understanding of Caleb. So he says, we're verse 37, Adonai was even angry with me on your account, saying, you will not enter there either. Joshua, son of Nun, who stands before you, will enter there. Encourage him, for he will enable Israel to inherit it. And we find that out in his very book. And again, that book is about them battling the giants. Moreover, your little ones whom you said would become plunder, and your children who today have no knowledge of good or evil, they will enter there. To them I will give it, and they will possess it. But as for you, turn around and journey into the wilderness by way of the Sea of Reeds. Then you answered and said to me, we have sinned against Adonai. We will go up and fight, just as Adonai our God commanded us. So each of you strapped on his weapons of war, figuring it was easy to go up into the hill country. But Adonai said to me, tell them, do not go up and fight, for I am not with you, and you will be defeated by your enemies. Pretty big statement there. So I told you, but you would not listen. You rebelled against the command of Adonai and presumptuously went up into the hill country. The Amorites who lived in the hill country came out against you, and they chased you as bees do and scattered you from Seir to Hormah. Then you returned and went before Adonai, but Adonai did not listen to your voice or pay attention to you. So you stayed in Kadesh many days, like the days you had spent before. So we see that Israel was kind of haughty. They thought they knew better. They figured they'd just go up there and wipe out these giants. And what does it say? It says that they scattered them like bees. Now we're getting into the real meat of the subject here. Jeff, would you like to read some?
I was just sitting here thinking that I remember as I was reading over this passage, I think yesterday, I was struck by that as such a cataclysmic instance of it's too late. You can't do the thing now because the moment is gone. Now you have chosen this and you're unfortunately stuck with this. And that's a terrible reality to have to face.
It is. It's a place you don't want to be. We get down here to verse 9, and we're going to get into some really cool teaching.
So we're at 2:1, correct?
2:1, yes. Chapter 2, verse 1.
Okay.
Allie, you want to read 1 through 8?
Sure. I've got it. I got it right here.
Okay, go ahead.
And then we'll have Allie pick up at 9. Then we turned and journeyed into the wilderness in the direction of the Red Sea, as the Lord told me. And for many days we traveled around Mount Seir. Then the Lord said to me, "You've been traveling around this mountain country long enough, 40 years. Turn northward and command the people. You are about to pass through the territory of your brothers, the people of Esau, who live in Seir, and they will be afraid of you. So be very careful. Do not contend with them, for I will not give you any of their land. No, not so much as for the sole of a foot to tread on, because I have given Mount Seir to Esau as a possession. You shall purchase food from them with money, that you may eat. You shall also buy water from them, that you may drink. For the Lord your God has blessed you in all the work of your hands. He knows you're going through this great wilderness. These 40 years, the Lord your God has been with you, and you have lacked nothing."
I want to pause you just for a second there. Okay, we're talking about, we mentioned the hill country of Seir, okay? Seir, what we will find out just a short time later in Deuteronomy is Seir. He was the king of this tribe of Horites, and these Horites again are Rephaim. We see that Esau has intermarried into this tribe of people that Israel was told not to marry into. There were 7 different tribes that it was called being placed on the ban. They were forbidden. They were taboo. It says, do not intermarry with these. These were the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Hittites, the Hivites, the Horites, the Girgashites. So what we find is that Esau had gone against what his father had told him and intermarried with these Horites. And here we see that due to his intermarriage, we're discussing the country of Seir, the Mount Seir. And again, these Horites were, and if you look up the, what do you call it? The, in a Bible dictionary, if you look up the name, Horite, it literally means caveman. Is the literal Hebrew translation is caveman. So these were mega giant cavemen that lived on Mount Seir. It just makes perfect sense that these were some scary dudes, and they were cannibalistic. So, if you want to go ahead and pick up, I think we left off at verse 7, Jeff. Stop at 9.
I was looking at the Strong's. The Strong's word here for the
Horite.
Horli, literally cave dweller.
Yeah, cave dweller, caveman.
Literally cave dweller.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? So you got to think these were some scary dudes if that's how they lived. And that's a rabbit trail. We can go down that a later time. I want to get to verse 9 and on.
So
that's the real meat of this, of where I'm going with this today.
Sure. So it is, you're going to pass through this land. Don't contend with them, because you're not going to win, but I will bless you to go through this land. You can buy your food, you can buy your drink. The Lord has blessed you. He knows you're going through great wilderness. These 40 years you have lacked nothing. I still think that is so powerful. Even though you've been in the desert for 40 years, you have lacked nothing.
And I think I want to add something here, because I made mention of the 7 tribes, these 7 forbidden tribes that were placed on the ban. When Israel is told to go into the promised land, and this goes all the way back to the book of Genesis, the 7 are mentioned, and there's additional tribes that are added on to the list. But when they go into the promised land, what we see is these Amorites, Canaanites, Hivites, Hittites, Horites, Jebusites, Girgashites, they were all descendants of the Nephilim. Okay. And some of them are called Nephilim, and we're about to get to that in verse 9, 10, etc.
Okay. So verse 8, so we went on away from our brothers, the people of Esau who live in Seir, and away from the Arabah road, from Elath and Ezion Geber. And we turned and we went in the direction of the wilderness of Moab. And Allie?
And we're
take verse 9 and then we're off.
Okay. Then the Lord said to me, don't harass Moab, nor contend with them in battle. For I will not give you any of their land as a possession, because I have given Ar to the descendants of Lot as a possession. The Emim had dwelt there in times past. The people as great and numerous, as tall as the Anakim. They were also regarded as giants.
Pause there for a second. Right, pause there for a second. Okay, verse 10. The Emim used to live there, a great and numerous people, as tall as the Anakim. So what we find here is there are a total of 5 of these mega giants. I'm going to call them mega giants because it equates the height of these to the Anakim. So the Anakim, these sons of Anak, Sheshai, Talmai, and Ahiman, the 3 sons of Anak, they always revert back and they use them as the measuring stick. So they're relating these Emim as a great and numerous people, as tall as the Anakim. Then it goes on to say 11, these people are also considered Rephaim, like the Anakim, but the Moabites call them Emim. Now the Horites, remember we talked about Seir just above? It says now the Horites used to live in Seir, but the sons of Esau drove them out and destroyed them from before themselves and settled in their place, just as Israel did to the land of its possession that Adonai gave to them. And we keep going on. Now rise up and cross over the Wadi Zered So we went over the Wadi Zered, the river. The time that we traveled from Kadesh Barnea until we crossed over the Wadi Zered was 38 years, until all the generations of the men of war from within the camp came to an end. So 38 years. So everybody had died off. Those who the Father said, "You shall not enter my land of rest," had died off. Okay. Verse 15. Indeed, the hand of Adonai was against them to destroy them from within the camp until they came to their end. Now, when all the men of war had finished dying from among the people, Adonai spoke to me, saying, "Today you're about to cross the border of Moab at Ar. When you come opposite the sons of Ammon, do not harass or provoke them, for I will not give you any of the land of the sons of Ammon for a possession, because I have given it to the sons of Lot for a possession." That also is considered a land of Rephaim, a land of giants. So here we see that this land that Ammon is possessing, not only the land of Esau, but the land that the sons of Ammon are possessing, are also considered, verse 20, this also is considered a land of Rephaim, a land of giants, because giants used to live there. But the Ammonites call them Zamzumim. And here we have a repeat of what they stated earlier, a great and numerous people as tall as the Anakim. So again, we have another reference to the Anakim, the sons of Anak, Sheshai, Talmai, and Ahiman. So these guys were really big. So we have the Emim, the Zamzumim are both being equated to being as tall as the Anakim. It says here, but Adonai destroyed them from before them, and the Ammonites dispossessed them and settled in their place. So they ran them off. God destroyed them, and they ran them off. And they settled in their place. It was just as Adonai did for the sons of Esau who dwelled in Seir when he destroyed the Horites before them. And I'm going to go down a little rabbit trail here. When we think of Esau, there is a section of Torah that tells us that Esau, all of the wives that he took were from these forbidden tribes, these tribes that had been put on the ban list that God said, do not intermarry with them. Don't ask how they practice. Don't ask what gods they worship. Don't inquire about them at all pertaining to their lifestyle, because their lifestyle was perverted. This again was the reason that Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed, because these people were they were from that lineage. So he says, and we are at 22, the end of 22, who dwell in Seir when he destroyed the Horites from before them. They drove them out and settled in their place, even to this day. As for the Avim, who lived in villages as far as Gaza, the Caphtorim, who came from Crete, destroyed them and settled in their place. So we have the Emim, the Zamzumim, the Avim, and the Caphtorim, along with the Anakim. Verse 24, defeat of Sihon and Og. Defeat of Sihon and Og. Now we know that these are Amorite kings. We know again that these are Rephaim. It says, rise up, journey on, and cross over the Wadi Arnon. See, I have handed over Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it. Engage him in battle. This very day I will begin to put the dread and fear of you upon the peoples everywhere under heaven. When they hear the report about you, they will tremble and twist in anguish because of you. Now think about this. If we go back to the book of Joshua, we remember the story of Rahab, right? When the two spies went and they met with Rahab. What did Rahab tell them? Was it that she said? Do you remember? She says, When we heard of what Israel had done to King Sihon and to King Og of Bashan, we were afraid because we're Amorites too. So we know that all of these things correlate. All of this comes together like a puzzle piece, and you have to you start picking and pulling. Once you understand what you're reading, you'll pull from this area and you'll pull from this area, and then these things start to make sense. We start to understand why it says, "Do not be afraid or dismayed," because these people were much, much bigger, and there were thousands of them. There wasn't just a couple. It wasn't just the three sons of Anak. They were just the really, really big guys. It says that they were numerous people. So I wanted to put that emphasis in there because Torah puts that emphasis.
Mm-hmm.
He says, verse 26, so I sent messengers from the wilderness of Kedemoth to Sihon, king of Heshbon, with words of shalom, words of peace, saying, let me pass through your land, and I will go only by the way of the road. I will not turn to the right or to the left. You will sell me food for money so that I may eat, and give me water for my money so that I may drink. Just let me pass through on foot. As the sons of Esau, dwelling in Seir, and the Moabites in Arn did for me, until I cross over the Jordan into the land that Adonai our God is giving us. But Sihon, king of Heshbon, would not let us pass by him, because Adonai your God stiffened his spirit and hardened his heart in order to hand him over to you this very day. Verse 31, Adonai said to me, see, I have begun to give Sihon and his land over to you. Begin to take possession in order to take hold of his land. Then Sihon came out against us, he and all of his people, to battle at Jahaz. Adonai our God gave him over to us, and we struck him down, along with his sons and all his people. We captured all his cities at that time, and utterly put under a ban of judgment, a ban of destruction, every city, men, women, and children. We left no survivor. I want you to think about this. How many times have you read Torah and discussed the battles that they had? Whenever they were fighting another clan, they would kill the men, but they would take the women, the children, and the animals as spoils of war, right? That's how it was. However, when Israel is told to go into the promised land, they're told to kill everything. And this always perplexed me. When I was going through seminary, I was like, why are they killing everything? This is uncommon. Why would God give a command to kill the men, the women, and the children? It says, we left no survivor, verse 34. Verse 35, we took only the livestock as plunder for ourselves, as the spoils of the cities we captured, as spoils of war. From Aroer, I never can say that right, Aroer, however you say it, which is on the edge of the Wadi Arnon, the river Arnon, and the city by the river. Wadi means river in Hebrew. All the way up to the Gilead, there was not a town too high for us. Adonai, our God, gave everything over to us. Now I'm going to put an emphasis here because they do. There was not a town too high for us. Remember, these buildings, these cities, if you've got a 20-foot person walking around, their wall is going to be that much bigger, right? If you've got a 12-foot person like Goliath, if you've got a 15-foot person like King Og, they're going to fortify that to fit their height. So it's interesting that we read right here. It says there was not a town too tall for us, too high for us, because Adonai our God gave everything over to us. Now think about this. When they went into the land, what did they do around
Jericho? Walked around it 7 times.
And what they do? What happened?
And they blew the shofar, and it all comes down because God's amazing and makes it happen just like that.
Because without that spiritual intervention by the Father, those walls probably would not have came down. They were probably so massive and so thick. We got to think about this. It says that Rahab, that her house lived inside the wall. In the wall. Her house was in the wall. And she's an Amorite. Now, I'm not saying that every single Amorite was a 15-foot person, but there is a very good indication that they were much bigger. They're both men and women, because it doesn't make a distinction. And I think if it was only the men, because I've heard this thrown out there, well, it was only the men that were bigger. I don't believe that. I believe that if it was only the men that were bigger, then they wouldn't have killed the women and the children. You follow me? I mean, it's kind of a common sense thing.
It brings to mind a certain, I want to say Protestant tendency, but that may not be broad enough. Maybe what I mean to say is over the last 400 or 500 years, maybe 600 years, we will do just about anything to strip the scriptures of something that's supernatural that cannot be, categorized or put down into a rational format.
Absolutely.
And some of the decline that we see.
We want to make it where it's,
but it's
right.
not.
We want to make it something that we can relate to in our modern day, and it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
If Sheshai, Talmai, and Ahiman were taller than the cedars of Lebanon, like Torah says, I believe that they truly were. I believe they were these mega giants, and they weren't the only ones. Again, we read that the Emim, the Zamzumim, the Avim, the Kephtorim, they were all equated to the height and greatness of the Anakim, of these three that they discuss.
It's so funny how parts of scripture fall into place if you will just allow that scripture knows what it's talking about and will offer commentary on itself. It will interpret itself if you simply let it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and read verse 37. Only you did not come near the land of the sons of Ammon, all along the Wadi Jabak, and the cities of the hill country, and wherever Adonai our God has commanded. And that ends chapter 2, I believe.
So do we want to pick up 3 next week and just keep on rolling with this?
That would be really cool, because there is so much here that I would like to really expand on, and kind of cross-reference, because I'm sure out there, for those that are watching this, I'm sure you guys have got questions on, well, how did he get to that answer? How do we know that these guys were really that big, and that there were Rephaim in the land? Well, if we read and we believe Genesis chapter 6, it says that there were giants in the land before the flood and after. So here we have the example of the after. And they were there, and they were dangerous. They were scary. That's why it said, do not be afraid or dismayed. There's an example. I can't wait till we get to the book of Joshua, because the whole book is about them at war with giants. And they even, Joshua makes one of them lay down and tells all of the other officers to come over and put their foot on the neck of this giant and not be afraid of him, because even though he's this huge, big thing that's laying there, that's what they were there to do. That's what God had removed. And that's an important part that I forgot to mention, is it does say in Torah, when they were going into the land, it says that God had removed his blessing off of the inhabitants of the land and placed it on the house of Israel. So these Rephaim, these giants, these Amorites, Canaanites, all of these that fall under this Amorite Canaanite family umbrella, that God had removed his blessing off of them because of the defilements that they had done. And I think it'd be great to pick this up next week, next Wednesday, and really dive into this more. So
I'm gonna just 1 second before we go here. Let's take a look. Yeah, next Wednesday picks up. Next week's Torah portion picks up at chapter 3, verse 23. So next Wednesday we're just going to keep rolling with Deuteronomy 3, and we'll just kind of keep on going from there.
cool. And guys out there, I want to tell y'all that if you're interested in this topic, our senior pastor, Dr. Douglas Hamp, has a 3-book series out called Corrupting the Image. And in books, actually books 1 through 3, he discusses these very things that we're talking about here. He discusses the Nephilim in detail. So, and you can pick up those books on Amazon.com. I encourage you. I've read every one of them. And he gives, I have not found a better set, and I've read a ton on this topic. I did my doctoral thesis on this topic, and I haven't found a more concise interpretation, correct, might I add, interpretation of Torah than Dr. Hamp's books on the topic of the Nephilim. So again, pick up his book, Corrupting the Image. And with that, that's a little plug for Doug. If you're interested in this, come visit us at the Way. Dr. Hamp talks about this in his sermons. We get into it when we do our midrash. We have this week we will be having an oneg and then a Bible study, which is the midrash, just like we're doing here. And we can discuss all of this because that's what we discussed this week. So come visit us at our new location.
220 South Yarrow.
Yeah, 220 South Yarrow Street in Lakewood, Colorado. Come visit us. Come talk about this. We get fired up and love discussing this topic. It's amazing because it does involve end times prophecy. Just because you're not seeing these things walk around right now in the flesh, if you believe 2 Peter, what 2 Peter says, if you believe Matthew 24, where Yeshua gives an example, he says, what will it be like in the last days? He says, it will be like in the days of Noah before the flood. Well, what was it like in the days of Noah before the flood? Well, the land was full of giants. So I think that's a good place to leave it for now. Jeff, Allie, Jeff, thank you for tolerating my little rant on this topic. You know how much I love discussing this.
I enjoyed listening to it. It just serves to underscore the idea, and we've talked about it before so many times on this show that, I mean, once you establish, you have to translate it from the ancient Hebrew into English, and once that kind of stuff is done, it really is quite simple to understand Scripture. You remember that God is holy, and you let the Scripture tell you what it wants to tell you. And that's it. It really is not much more difficult than that.
It's a fun topic to discuss, but it's not just a topic that is irrelevant. It has a huge part in eschatology and end times prophecy. Revelation chapter 12, and I truly believe Revelation chapter 9, as Doug discusses. These things are they're simply out of sight at the moment, but they are going to manifest themselves in a way that the world has never seen before. And their essence is definitely active and doing everything that they can in sequence with the enemy to destroy mankind. That was their goal then, and that's their goal now. That goal has never changed.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate all that you do.
Well, I just love talking about the Bible, brother. I love God. I love talking about the Bible, and this is one of my favorite topics here. There's so much more. We have not even scratched the surface tonight. There is a foundation to be laid there, and I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that will have questions on this topic. Come see us, and we'll talk about it face to face, man. I'd be happy to sit down and open up the Bible and show you exactly why I believe exactly what I told you today.
It's going to be hard to duck it this week because it's the actual Torah portion. So,
right,
this is the week to come. This is the one.
This is it.
All right.
If you're going to come, this other than when we discuss Genesis 6, this is one of the best times to come and get a teaching, because I know if I'm talking about it tonight, I know Doug is going to be talking about it extensively in his sermon this weekend.
Mm-hmm. All right. So it's agreed. We'll see you all there.
And you also bring your kids, because I can be their youth pastor. So you should bring them. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Bring your youth. Bring your teenagers. We need more kids to come and play with the kids that are already there. We would love to. We want to see our youth group grow. And Allie is a wonderful, wonderful teacher. So bring your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren. Bring them down to the way and come worship with us. And with that, Doug, you want to give us a prayer out? I've talked enough tonight.
Father, I marvel at the power of your word, and yes, we spoke about giants tonight, and Papa, truly I could say a lot, but it's meaningful, it's healing to come and gather around your word and to share it with one another. And so I pray for each person represented here, certainly Allie and Yisrael, and all of our friends watching and leaving comments. I pray that whatever is in front of them or is behind them be subject to your word. May we walk in joyful obedience. May we be humble enough to let you heal and to change and to direct. And may it be said of us that we have been with you. Amen.
Amen. Love you guys. Shabbat Tov. Have
Shalom,
a good week.
my friends.
Shalom.
Bye-bye.
Bye.